My name is Greg Parsons, and I'm the inventor and patent holder of the parallel flow intersection, or PFI, which is a novel traffic intersection. And with this video, I'm recording the last installment of my Cui Bono video series that documents the unlawful misconduct and malfeasance of the Florida Department of Transportation District 7, Secretary David Gwynn and others, and the Pasco County Metropolitan Planning Organization, or MPO Board, and others. And this basically concludes what for me has been a now almost 10-year saga. When I say unlawful misconduct, basically it amounts to fraud. Fraud that has been committed by these public officials as well as their consultants. That the fraud that they've committed was for the purpose of selecting a final build alternative project at the intersection of US 41 and State Route 54, and rejecting my patented intersection. Okay, so it's a pretty involved story, I suppose, that began in July of 2014 when I first became interested in this project. So what I've done over the years since I patented the PFI, which I obtained the patent for it, it's dated from September of 2004, so it expires this year in September. That over these, I would say up until 2014, I had spent over a decade trying to get an agency, either a state DOT or local government, to build the PFI. I believe the PFI is an excellent design. The PFI is a low cost, low impact, high efficiency alternative to grade separation or building bridges. So where the PFI would make the most sense is a location of two arterial roads, not freeways, that are congested, and the agencies responsible for that location, they want to fix the congestion, probably as a result of either public pressure or there is some special interest driving the project. Anyway, they do a study, they evaluate alternatives, and then they pick, well, they're supposed to pick the best alternative. The best alternative being the one that best satisfies the purpose and need of the project. All things considered. That's what they're supposed to do. My experience, though, is that that's not what they actually do. So they're supposed to be acting in the interest of the public and taxpayers, but what they really are doing is acting in their own interest or in the interest of corrupt politicians or in the interest of special interests. Okay, that there is Um, my experience is that there's been an ulterior motive on all projects that I've taken an interest in, and I have approached the DOT or the local agency. That what I don't find in dozens of attempts is any one of them expressing a desire to build the best project. I did not run into that one time. And I approached a number of DOTs, different states, different districts, and a number of local government agencies. And I can say that I did not at any one time experience the public officials saying, hey, we want to build the best project here. That's what we want to do. If I had encountered such an agency, then the PFI would have been built a long time ago, because I know every time I've proposed it, it is the best project across the board in terms of cost, in terms of efficiency or level of service, in terms of, or say, delay savings, in terms of minimal impacts, safety. In every way, it's the best project every time I've proposed it versus what they're considering. So I proposed the PFI as a value engineering alternative, and every time it has been rejected, just without consideration. I mean, I'm not talking about it being evaluated and then rejected, like for some technical fatal flaw. Never got that far. The response was always just no. And accompanied with a bureaucratic excuse or administrative excuse that were just nonsensical almost every time. I had one time when I brought the PFI to the agency that they legitimately rejected the PFI because of the classification of the road. So be it. Every other time, though, the PFI was a good candidate as an alternative, and every time it was rejected. Every time. But this time, in District 7. And that was a fluke. That was an absolute fluke that the PFI became an alternative on these studies. Definitely not what they wanted. Somehow they found themselves having to include the PFI as an alternative, and there's no question in my mind that none of them wanted it. None of them wanted it included. But for whatever reason, they felt like they had to include it. But once they did, they then actively sabotaged the PFI. They sabotaged the design, and they misrepresented the SPUI as being without congestion, in essence. So I spent 7 years battling both of these agencies in their efforts to sabotage the PFI, but while pretending to be acting appropriately, to pretend to do their jobs, or pretending to go through the process, while at the same time, at every step, sabotaging the PFI and over my repeated objections. Okay, so this, as I say, was a 7-year saga for me that really began. Well, I first proposed the PFI to them, or suggested it to them, in July of 2014. Then it became For me, I submitted a proposal for value engineering to make the PFI an alternative on the FDOT PD&E. Then another study came into play. That was the Pasco Vision 5456 study. That was 2 years. Then there was a 4-year feasibility study by FDOT. All of this concluded last year in February of 2023, when FDOT made a presentation to the Pasco MPO board. At that presentation, I interrupted. I said, "You're committing fraud. You're misrepresenting the PFI," and the MPO board had me removed from the room by a deputy sheriff. That was their response. So this is just flagrant, brazen corruption, making use of their muscle, their deputies, to silence me. That's what they did. Okay. And as I say, all of this I tried to document in my Cui Bono series, which is a 13-part, 15-hour video series. I go through everything in pretty excruciating detail. I've also made available my email archives. Almost all my communications with these agencies since 2016 was by email. So it's all documented. And once the FDOT's official selection was made for the SPUI to be their final build alternative, that's when I began contacting law firms and began researching for myself what would be involved in suing the state, because I believe they've cost me $57 million in lost income. They've cost the taxpayers $60 million. They've cost the public billions of dollars. There's also excessive impacts to the community and the environment that is all resulted from their corruption and their unlawful misconduct. So I began approaching law firms and received no responses. When I approached the law firm, I did it through, usually they have a form web page that you can submit your request or whatever, or for consultation or whatever, or email address. I would email an attorney, and I provided detail as to my case. Wouldn't get responses from anybody. Got a few, and the responses essentially were, "We don't take that kind of work." So for me, the issue is, it had to be on a contingency basis, because I can't afford to pay for an attorney. So it'd be a contingency basis, and the damages that I'm claiming is $57 million. And of course, for the attorney to be paid on a contingency basis, their fee would be on top of that. So it could be a $70 million lawsuit, say. Well, what I didn't understand, because I'm not an attorney, I'm an engineer. I'm a highway and traffic engineer. But through my researching this situation of trying to sue the state of Florida, basically, and Pasco County, the first thing I encounter is they have sovereign immunity. Okay. Sovereign immunity means that they have to give permission to sue them in the state of Florida. They have to waive their sovereign immunity in order to be sued. So basically, sovereign immunity is a license to steal. That's the bottom line. Sovereign immunity wherever it exists, but certainly in the state of Florida, is a license for the state to steal from the taxpayers and steal or abuse the public trust. That's what it is. It's a get out of jail free card. You can screw people as much as you want and know that there's nothing they can do about it. Now, of course, that doesn't apply to, the somebodies. If you're a somebody, then, that's probably a different set of rules. But if you're a nobody, like me, I'm a nobody. I'm a peasant. If you're a member of the peasant class, sovereign immunity means they can shit on you all they want, and there's not a goddamn thing you can do about it. Okay, unless you can find some big name activist group, like the Audubon Society or something like that, who can actually apply some political pressure. Okay, but if you're just somebody like me with sovereign immunity, it means that no attorney is going to want to represent you. Okay, now they'll represent you on a fee basis. The attorneys are happy to take your money to pursue a futile lawsuit. See, they'd be happy for you to pay them, thousands and thousands of dollars, knowing the whole time that they can't win, but they'd love to take your money. But on a contingency basis, given that they know they can't win, well, of course, they're not going to take your case. So there's sovereign immunity. And what I also have learned is that even though let's say they waive their sovereign immunity and allow you to sue them. Okay. First off, they have attorneys that are on the state, salary. So they have an army of attorneys with endless resources to throw at a lawsuit. But even if they waive sovereign immunity, and even if I prevailed in court, a jury rules in my favor, a dollar amount, if it's greater than $300,000, if the award would be greater than $300,000 in the state of Florida, it has to be then approved, voted on by the state legislature, and signed off by the governor. Any amount over $300,000. So it's basically suing the state is a non-option. There's no way to sue the state. They've set it up so that they are protected and you're screwed. That's the way it is. I mean, to me, it's like taking a page out of pre-revolutionary France when you've got the aristocracy and there's not a damn thing the serfs can do. Until one day they burn down their buildings, they storm the Bastille. So, I mean, that's what I see sovereign immunity just setting that up. That one day, that's going to happen. We don't have a Bastille. Doesn't mean that bad things won't happen one day as they begin to more and more flagrantly abuse the people, abuse the taxpayers. One day. Not today, maybe, but one day. Anyway, so suing the state was not an option. Just not an option. So then I thought, okay, well, I will file criminal complaint, and with the hope that maybe somebody with the appropriate enforcement agency will want to do the right thing. Will want to do the right thing. Okay. That's me being delusional. That's more. I have an addiction to hopium, I suppose. I do. A terminal addiction to hopium. So I was hoping, well, maybe I can get some remedy if I then turn to the file complaint, criminal complaint. So I chose two agencies: the U.S. Department of Transportation Office of Inspector General and the Florida DOT Office of Inspector General. Both of these agencies exist. They exist to investigate government fraud, abuse, waste. That's their purpose. That's their alleged purpose. That's their ostensible purpose. So I filed complaints, and then they got nowhere with them. My case was referred to others, and then I got nowhere with those others. And that's what this video is going to be going through, is my attempts to get action by enforcement for what I consider to be pretty flagrant corruption. Okay, so anyway, this is the this slide here from my Cui Bono presentation. These are the people involved. This is how the PFI and SPUI alternatives compare. And I just say that the purpose and need of this project is to meet future traffic demand. The PFI can do that, and the SPUI absolutely cannot do that because there's going to be severe congestion at the signal on 41. So bottom line, the SPUI does not even satisfy the purpose of the project, but the PFI does. That doesn't matter. And all these other ways that the PFI is superior to the SPUI, all these important selection factors, none of that mattered. This is a clip from a MPO board meeting, an exchange between this Commissioner Starkey and Secretary David Gwynn with FDOT.
Timing and the analysis of a pedestrian crossing 54 and 41 with the new designs. It was.
She says with the new design, she means the PFI.
Like 20 minutes to get from one corner to the other with like 9 lights or something.
So she said it takes 20 minutes to cross from corner to corner at the PFI because there's only 3 alternatives. She's not talking about the SPUI. She's not talking about the CFI alternative, which was never a contender. She's talking about the PFI. This is the level of misrepresentation that the PFI's endured and that I've suffered through over the past 7 years. As I say, it takes 20 minutes to cross the road at the PFI. Well, no, it doesn't. That's an absolute lie. And she then goes on.
One of the alternatives.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily think that's going to be the one.
I was crazy.
They're laughing about that. She said it's crazy. The PFI's crazy, and he thinks it's funny too. And well, it's not going to get picked. Okay, so it's this level of I don't know how to describe it. Shittiness, I guess. Douchebaggery. This kind of, well, it's lying and it's fraud. This is the bottom line. It's just they set up the PFI to be a straw man alternative, and then they laugh about the problems with the PFI that they induce by not designing it correctly or not following my specifications for the PFI. So they conjure this clown alternative, and then they laugh at it. And in the meantime, they don't talk about the congestion that's going to be at the SPUI signal, the 3 miles of backup and over 20 minutes of delay twice a day at the SPUI by its design year, by 2045. That is completely covered up, completely omitted from their public information, their presentations, their conversation. I bring it up, and I'm ignored by the MPO board and by Secretary Gwynn. So, but as I say, I go through all of this in detail in my Cui Bono series. Along with the slide here shows a list of their wrongdoing, as I call it out. Breach of public trust, breach of fiduciary duty, breach of contract, bad faith, gross negligence, fraud, and conspiracy to commit fraud. I say conspiracy to commit fraud because District 7 and Pasco MPO coordinated their misconduct. That was clearly coordinated between the two of them. And all of this is, as I say, the evidence for this is contained in my email archives or on video archives from MPO board meetings. So, yeah, anyway. So, in see, these are emails that I exchanged with various individuals. Starting in, I've got this email here to start with, which is dated November 9th, 2022. This is an email that I sent to Secretary Gwynn just prior to them, well, not just prior, but this email was after I got a copy of their presentation where they announced the SPUI as their build alternative, but before they give it their presentation to the MPO board, which doesn't happen until February of 2023. But in this email, I just respond to this, and this is actually an email chain. It begins down here, where I'm talking to him about, or complaining really, about their presentation to the MPO board. And their bogus presentation. Just a bunch of lies is what it amounts to. And I'm complaining to him about it, and I also sent these emails to the MPO board members, and I copied Will Watts, who is the Assistant Secretary of FDOT, and I'll be talking about him later. David Hawk, who is the Assistant Administrator of the FHWA Florida Division. He comes up later. And this Barbara Barrett, if that's how you pronounce her name, I don't know. She's a reporter with Tampa Bay Times. And her name comes up in my Cui Bono series when it comes to false reporting by the Tampa Bay Times. Anyway, there's just corruption. Everybody is so goddamn corrupt. Everybody is. Everybody is. That I deal with. Everybody is. All of these officials, their consultants, and even these reporters are corrupt people. They have no integrity at all. It's disgusting. It really is. It really is. Anyway. So I start this email. Let me see. I start off with this email where I'm telling Gwen that I went over the handouts. This is their, it's like a pre-release of their presentation they will end up giving in February 2023. And they've introduced new selection criteria that was never part of the study. They have exhibits that show the PFI doing things it shouldn't be doing, having impacts it shouldn't have, and I'm complaining to him about this. No responses from him on any of this, any of my complaints. None. Or from anybody. Anyway, so I am complaining loudly about their presentation, about the information is contained, and how they are grossly misrepresenting the SPUI alternative and the PFI. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. You know, they designed the PFI to fail deliberately, to discredit it. They refused to follow my specifications. I had no input. I mean, I had input, but they ignored or dismissed all of my input. They did not solicit any technical guidance, information, anything from me at all, as they designed my invention, my parallel flow intersection invention. They're designing it, and they refuse all input from me completely. And they do it wrong. I complain over and over and over, and they ignore or dismiss my complaints. Anyway, so I am with this email chain. This is all me complaining about their presentation, which is basically the conclusion of their feasibility study, and I received no response to my complaints at all. And this has been ongoing. This didn't just happen here. I've been complaining to Gwen and others at the district for years over their mistreatment of the PFI and their covering up of the SPUI's congestion. Got nowhere. Got nothing. It was just talk to the hand. So anyhow, so that was that. Then fast forward to 27 November 2023. Here I file my first complaint with the F.OIG, Office of Inspector General. So this is my complaint, and I say that they are in violation of Florida Statutes 838, which is official misconduct, and 471, which is engineering misconduct, as well as the U.S. False Claims Act and the National Environmental Policy Act, or NEPA. I provide links to my Cui Bono series, as well as my email archives. I also, I think it's same day, no, 2 days later, I filed the same complaint with the U.S. Department of Transportation Office of Inspector General. Then, let's see, there must have been some kind of interaction with the F.OIG. So I wish to make a formal accusation of fraud committed by F. District 7 Secretary David Gwynn and others in the MPO, or the Pasco County MPO Board and others, in connection with the US 41 SR 54 intersection improvement PD&E study. I get a response from Kim Likens, Director of Investigations for the F.OIG, and note the tagline on her email down here at the bottom in the signature. Do your part. report fraud, waste, abuse, misconduct, or mismanagement. Okay, I did my part. I did that. I reported fraud, waste, abuse, misconduct, and mismanagement. I mean, it really, my complaint contains all of those things by District 7, Secretary Gwynn, and others at the district. And bottom line is, my complaints were just dismissed. Okay, just dismissed. And spuriously dismissed. Yeah, which I'll get to, but this is BS. You know, you can report fraud to them, but it doesn't mean that they're going to do anything. It doesn't mean that it means a damn thing. Okay, your complaint will go nowhere. Doesn't matter how valid it is, because I think mine is pretty strong. Doesn't matter. This is a response I got from the U.S. Department of Transportation, OIG, and they have a hotline. So I use their hotline. I mean, that's how important it is to them, because they have a hotline, right? And I used that hotline, and it didn't go anywhere. I mean, well, they refer me to FHWA. So it says, based on our review of the material provided, which all they did is look at my email. I have no evidence that they watched my Cui Bono video series or downloaded my email archives. So all they did is they read my email, and that's as far as they went. So they say, based on the material provided, we've determined that we do not have primary oversight over your concerns. So I'm accusing FDOT of violating the U.S. False Claims Act, violating NEPA, and they're saying, well, they don't have any oversight over that. They're an enforcement agency that perform investigations into allegations of fraud, etc. But they don't have oversight. I'm not asking for their oversight. I'm asking for enforcement. Anyway, they refer me to the FHWA, Federal Highway Administration, Florida Division. Okay. So let's see. I contact FHWA Florida Division. This is Karen Brunell, Miss Brunell. She is the, I think she's like the director of their transportation development, something along those lines, or planning office within the FHWA Florida Division. And I basically send her my complaint again, with attachment. So let's see. So I sent this just to provide context, how much better the PFI is than the SPUI, and then saying, hey, they committed fraud in order to justify the SPUI and reject the PFI, but look how much better the PFI is. And they're over here laughing about it. So let's see. And then I sent her a couple of other exhibits. This is how the two alternatives compare in terms of delay and queue. The PFI is a minute of delay versus 22 minutes of delay at the SPUI, and a tenth of a mile of queue versus almost 3 miles of queue at the SPUI. And then my list of accusations. Okay. This is just a duplicate because I copied David Hawk, her boss. This is a response that I got from her. Oh, I also had a conversation with her over the phone, and she listened. This is another thing. This is another theme. If you're dealing with bureaucrats, they humor you. They'll humor you till the cows come home because they get paid. So if you're talking to them, chewing on their ear, and let's say, and with her, I think I talked to her for maybe an hour, going over all of this with her, and she was very pleasant, very polite, very even attentive to what I was saying. But I know in hindsight that it was just, she was humoring me. That's what she was doing. It was disingenuous. Let's put it that way. It was very disingenuous. Oh, here it is. Karen Brunell, Director, Office of Project Development. Okay, so I say thanks for listening. And as I remarked, my 13-part video series, Cui Bono. Oh yeah, this was a mistake I made in my Cui Bono video series where I said that David Hawk, her boss, the assistant administrator of FHWA Florida Division, is a former FDOT district secretary. That is not true. I put the correction into my video. I got that impression from somewhere online, but it was not correct. Let's see. Yeah, she confirms here that he was not a former FDOT district secretary. Doesn't really matter to me. Yeah, I think when I thought he was, I'm thinking, okay, this is just an incestuous relationship between FHWA and FDOT. Okay, so he's not a former district secretary. Honestly, it doesn't matter. As far as I'm concerned, they're partners in crime. Bottom line. You know, you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. You do something wrong, I'll look the other way. And then if I do something wrong, you look the other way. Yeah, that's their relationship. Let's see. So then fast forward almost a month, and I ask Likens with the FDOT OIG, has your office looked into this matter? If so, do you have the information you need? If not, I'll try to provide you with whatever you might be lacking. When should I expect a response from your office? Let's see, this is almost 2 weeks later. With this email, I request an update on my complaint. So it's almost a month. A month has gone by from when I first filed my complaint with the FDOT OIG, and I have not heard anything from them. No update, nothing. And I've asked for a update and have not heard. Yeah, so the last response I got from her was December 4th, and this is now January 2nd. She responds, the FDOT Office of Inspector General received your correspondence December 4th, wherein you expressed various concerns. No, I was not expressing concerns. No expressing of concerns. I was making an accusation of criminal conduct, of unlawful conduct. Okay. So regarding alleged misconduct of Secretary David Gwinnett et al. And the Pasco board, after having an opportunity to review your correspondence, and to be fair, they did download my email archives. That doesn't mean they actually looked at it or read any of them. And to include the video links you provided, the OIG has referred your complaint to FDOT leadership, specifically Assistant Secretary Will Watts, for review and action deemed appropriate. Okay, this is this is the enforcement agency that exists to investigate fraud, waste, abuse, misconduct, or mismanagement. My complaint is of fraud, waste, abuse, misconduct, and mismanagement. What does she do? What does the OIG do? Refer my complaint to the Assistant Secretary of FDOT, who is going to protect Secretary Gwynn, because Will Watts is going to act in the interest of FDOT, not to do what's right. He's going to act in the interest of, this is asking somebody who is partnered or teamed with the accused to look into the matter. That's what she's doing, instead of investigating it themselves. So I guess my question is, why have an Office of Inspector General if this is what they do with complaints of fraud, waste, abuse, misconduct, etc.? Why have an OIG if this is what they're going to do? I'm surprised she didn't refer me to Secretary Gwynn. How about, why didn't she just tell me to go back to David Gwynn and say, hey, we're referring you back to David Gwynn to discuss your allegations of his misconduct? Why not do that? Why bother Will Watts? He's got way more things to do. That guy's very, very busy guy. And this is well below his, we're talking levels of royalty here. And when you're at the top tier, you got better things to do. You got to be, rubbing noses with corrupt politicians. You got to be, doing that kind of stuff. He's got things to do. Why should he waste time with my issues? She should have just referred me back to David Gwynn. But instead she refers me to Will Watts. Well, she might as well have referred me to David Gwynn. Anyway. So let's see. My response to her is, okay, I'll see what Mr. Watts has to say, if anything. Well, he didn't have anything to say. I CC'd him on this email and will try to make contact. For your information, Ms. Likens, I CC'd Mr. Watts on several emails I sent to Secretary Gwynn in November 2022 concerning my complaint of their misconduct, and CC'd the Pasco MPO board and Tampa Bay Times too. Those emails went nowhere. Mr. Watts didn't reply or intervene then. I assume he didn't care or was unwilling to get involved. Why would he now? Well, and he doesn't, actually. But she doesn't reply to that email. So I send this email to Will Watts. Let's see, per the below email exchange I had with Ms. Likens, I'm contacting you to arrange a time next week for me to call you and discuss my situation with District 7. I accuse Secretary Gwynn, the Pasco MPO board, and other involved parties of flagrant unlawful misconduct in connection with the FDOT US 41 SR 54 PD&E and my patented parallel flow intersection, which is an official alternative. I've also filed a complaint with FHWA. So I tell them what's going on and want to arrange a day and time to talk. And that was January 4th. I didn't get a response, so I send another email to him This is January 8th. Then January 10th, I send an email to Likens saying, I've sent multiple emails to Watts requesting day and time to discuss the matter. He's not responded. What am I supposed to do if Watts refuses to respond? You know, I mean, if I can't have a call with him to talk about my issues and she's referred me to him, what am I supposed to do? And I think I copied him. Yeah, I copied him on this email too. So he knows I'm complaining to her. Let's see, this is contact. So now I'm asking Karen Brunel if there's any progress with FHWA looking into this issue. Okay, so I hear from Will Watts' secretary to set up a meeting via a video call. Get this arranged for January 24th. So this has been going on now for, I don't know, a month maybe. Okay, so we've got a day, January 24th, 10:30. Got that on the calendar. Let's see, then on January 12th, I get a response from Brunel with FHWA. She says they're still reviewing the materials that they've received from me, and we'll let you know if we need anything else. So I had proposed to go through the 1,600 emails. That's how many emails are in the archives. And to save them time, pull out the relevant emails to provide to them so they don't have to try to wade through 1,600 emails. But they don't want me to do that. She's saying no to that. And basically she's saying, don't call us, we'll call you. Okay, I know at this time that they have not downloaded my email archives. Federal Highways has not done that. And I have no record of them watching my Cui Bono video series. So bottom line is they've done nothing. She's lying to me here. This is a lie. As far as I can tell, this is a lie. That they're reviewing my materials. They're not. I inform her that I'm going to have a call with Watts. Thanks for the update. Let's see. All right, so I had the call with Watts, and let's see. So this is Will Watts, and this was our call in January. He I do all the talking. We spent 30 some minutes on this video call. I'm doing all the talking. I'm explaining to him the situation. And there's no discussion. He doesn't have anything to say. I'm not going to play the video or the audio because in Florida it's supposed to be a two-party consent state. That's the law. Even though he's a public official, I think I should be able to record a conversation with him not only because he's a public official and all information that is produced by a public official should be a matter of public record, but it's also a matter of public interest, our conversation. But anyway, nothing happened. This is him throughout. He has no questions. He has no comments. This is somebody who is humoring me for these 30-some minutes. I'm not even sure he's listening. I mean, I don't know what he's looking at. Maybe he's looking at me. I don't know. He just doesn't. There's no conversation, no discussion throughout this conversation. It's very much me monologuing, I guess. Then we have to cut it short. He has another appointment, and that's that. He says that because it was cut short, he then offers to continue the conversation. So I have this exchange with his secretary to set a date to continue the conversation, and the earliest, this is what she's got, availability the week of February 19th, almost a month away, to continue the conversation. So, okay, fine. We'll get together. So then we set a date for, let's see. This is February 21st, 11 a.m. And well, anyway, that day comes. I get a notification from her that he can't make that date. He can't make that day and time. It was double booked. So let's schedule it for the following day. So okay, fine. So I get ready. I'm gonna, at the appointed time, I'm going to sit down with him to continue our conversation from a month prior. And then I get a notification from her that he can't make that. He can't make that call either, and needs to reschedule a month later from that. And that's when I give up on the guy. I just give up on him. This is a response that I got. Let me see. No, this is me sending an email to Brunel. It's been over a month since I submitted my subject complaint to your office. What, if anything, is FHWA doing in response to my complaint? If FH is going to do nothing, I'd like to be told. She says we haven't finished the review of my information, and when it's complete, they'll let me know. They didn't review my information. She's just feeding me BS. Here, this is BS. So then I get a response from her. This is February 7th. Good afternoon, Mr. Parsons. See how pleasant they are? They're so pleasant. They're so polite. Even as they're effing you over, right? So thank you for your patience as we reviewed the materials provided, which they didn't do. First, please allow me to provide a brief explanation of FHWA's role in the federal-state partnership. Well, I don't need to know what that is, and it's not relevant to my complaint at all. I don't care about the FHWA role in federal-state partnership. It's got nothing to do with my complaint. So she's gonna educate me here. I mean, I've only been doing this for 40 years. I'm pretty well familiar with FHWA's role. I'm not sure that she is. I think she's the one that needs to be educated on FHWA's role. So the federal aid program is federally assisted, state-administered, locally driven program. Under federal aid program, federal funds are made available to the states for use in implementing their state transportation improvement program. Okay. The states, in cooperation with local officials, select projects for federal funding by establishing their own priorities. Okay. State agency, in this case the Florida Department of Transportation, or FDOT, and the local agencies such as the Pasco County Metropolitan Planning Organization are responsible for design, construction, maintenance, and operation of roadways on the state's federal aid system. Well, thank you for that. I didn't know any of that. God, I can't believe. What would I do without her to tell me about the things that they're supposed to be doing or what they do? Okay. Additionally, since December 16, 2016, FDOT's been assigned environmental project level responsibilities under 23 USC 327 NEPA assignment. This means that project level decisions are the responsibility of FDOT. Okay, so all of this is bullshit. Has nothing to do with my complaint at all. At all. You know, irrespective of the fact I already knew all this. You know, I mean, for me to get this from her, it's pretty insulting, whatever. But it has nothing to do with my complaint. So here she goes on to say that FHWA has reviewed the information they received, which they did not do. I have no evidence of that at all. They didn't download my email archives. My server tells me who downloads my files and gives me their IP address, and the only agency to download my email archives was the F.OIG, not FHWA. They didn't download anything. And all the evidence of their misconduct is contained in the email archives. Nobody's looked at those. I know they haven't, not even F.OIG, because there's 1,600 emails. It would take them a long time to go through them all, which is why I'm offering to go through and pull out the ones that matter most. Willing to do that. But they don't care. They don't want to hear from me. They want me to go away. And this email basically is her dismissing me. I'm being dismissed because I'm a peasant. Remember, I'm a peasant. Anyway, you included below, she's in my original email complaint down here. So she's saying I indicated below that FDOT concluded the environmental process in 2023, February 2023, with the selection of the SPUI as their final build alternative over your patented PFI alternative. Okay, that's wrong. That's factually wrong. I did not indicate that they had completed the PD&E. I said that they had completed their feasibility study. The PD&E is still going on, but they have selected the SPUI as their final build alternative. That is true. As part of our review, we've confirmed that FDOT has been assigned the environmental decisions for this project. Not relevant. And they have not concluded the environmental process. Not relevant. Not relevant. We understand that FDOT expects further public involvement on the US 41 SR 54 project in 2024 prior to making their final decision. Not relevant. None of this is relevant to my complaint. Well, and it's wrong because I never said that they had completed the environmental process in February 2023. What I said is that they had selected the SPUI as the final build alternative, which they did do. They did do. That's what they announced to the MPO board. And the board accepted that without comment. So as far as I'm concerned, the SPUI is the project. And the only public involvement that they have remaining is the public hearing where they're going to tell the public this is the project. You know, it's just a formality. By that time, it's a formality. And for her to say, oh, they've got further public involvement, well, there you go. I should just go to more public involvement. I've only been doing it for 7 years. The last public involvement I had was being removed from the meeting room by a deputy sheriff. They don't care. She doesn't give a shit. And neither does her boss. Let's see. Since this is a situation related to a project-specific action, no, it's not. No, it's not. That has been assumed by FDOT. By copy of this email, we're alerting Miss Jennifer Marshall, Director of the Environmental Management Office for FDOT. Well, haven't heard from her. With your project-specific concerns. I don't have project-specific concerns. I don't. They're committing fraud, lady. They're committing fraud. That's what they're doing. I don't have a problem with, their landscaping, choice of landscaping, or where they're putting their driveways, or, what kind of light poles they're building. I don't care about that. That's project-specific concern. I care about the fact that the whole project is fraudulent. It's fraud. It's got nothing to do with project-specific concerns. So this is my official dismissal from FHWA, the enforcement agency for NEPA, the National Environmental Policy Act. Okay, they're supposed to be enforcing. So what she's telling me is that FHWA has no problem granting FDOT however many millions of dollars in federal funding for a project that is knowingly based on fraud. No problem with that. That's what this email is saying, is that they're looking the other way. They're going to look the other way. I'm calling out fraud. That's going to cost taxpayers tens of millions of dollars and result in a much worse situation for the public, environment, and community. And the official position of FHWA is to look the other way and do it in the most shitty way, because what she's doing is a misdirect. This is a misdirect. This is a non sequitur, her email, by claiming that, oh, it's just a project specific thing. That's up to them. They're the ones that are supposed to deal with project specific concerns. Go back to the fraudsters and just work out your concerns with them. That's what she's telling me to do. The people who committed fraud on the project, she's telling me to go back to them and tell them in a public meeting about my project specific concerns. Tell them, hey, you guys are committing fraud. I'm concerned about the fraud you're committing. Oh, we're not committing fraud. What are you talking about? I mean, do you really expect somebody who's stealing to admit to their stealing? So that's why I say this email from her is absolute bullshit. Absolute bullshit. And her boss, David Hawk, is a party to this. So by getting this dismissal from her over my complaint of unlawful misconduct by FDOT, they're complicit in the misconduct. That's FHWA being an enabler of the misconduct, of the unlawful misconduct that FDOT is committing. Think about that. Again, what good is a law that's not enforced? Why have NEPA at all? Other than to make it appear as though the government actually gives a damn about protecting the environment, right? It's on the books so that they can say, well, we've got this law that shows that we protect the environment, except they don't enforce it. They look the other way. Anyway, so I respond to her email, and I copy her boss. I copy this Jennifer Marshall with FDOT, and Will Watts with FDOT. And I say to her, you wrote this, that they reviewed my information. I say, how's that possible? I've no record of anyone at FHWA downloading my email archives that contain all the evidence of their misconduct. No one from FHWA has any questions for me. And as far as I know, no one at FHWA watched my Cui Bono series because YouTube gives you, statistics on email, or on video viewership. I have no evidence that anybody from FHWA watched my Cui Bono series. You wrote, additionally, since December 16, 2016, FDOT's been assigned environmental project level responsibilities. And I say to her, does that include committing fraud? It must be contained in the fine print. So the way it works in the United States with NEPA, federal highways and state DOTs and local agencies, is that federal highways traditionally is the approving agency when it comes to NEPA compliance. So for Florida DOT, they have a process. It's called the Project Development Environment Process, PD&E process. That is the process FDOT uses to document their compliance with NEPA. That's the purpose of that process. And before this December 16 arrangement, 2016, between the state of Florida and the United States government, federal government, FHWA would approve the PD&E documents. Then they enter into this agreement, which it's great for FDOT and really sucks for the public and taxpayers, this arrangement, where FDOT approves their own NEPA documents. That's basically putting this fox in charge of the hen house. That's what this NEPA assignment does. What this NEPA assignment does is give FHWA plausible deniability. Well, it's FDOT. They're the ones that approved NEPA documents. Don't look at us. That's what it does. It opens the door for FDOT to engage in all manner of unlawful conduct with respect to NEPA, which they are highly motivated to do because there's special interests, there's developers, there's a lot of money involved. And the people like David Gwynn, who's the secretary of the district, he's the head guy at the district, is in bed with these people. Okay? They're not there to act in the public interest. They're not there to act in the taxpayer's interest. They don't give a damn. They're there to enrich themselves at the expense of the taxpayers and public and environment and the community. That's where their priorities lie, with themselves first, corrupt politicians second, the public a distant third, taxpayers not at all. That's my experience. And what this NEPA assignment does is then give FHWA plausible deniability. So in this very instance with this project, I'm calling out flagrant unlawful conduct by District 7 in connection with the NEPA process and NEPA violations. And here I get a response from Federal Highways saying, hey, look, it's their thing. We don't have any involvement. And I'm saying, look, lady, you guys are an enforcement agency. I'm talking about unlawful misconduct by them. It's got nothing to do with project specific concerns. It's fraud. And that one day they're going to be coming back to Federal Highways for money for this project. What are you going to do? Write that check so that tax money goes to this project that has been proposed on a fraudulent basis? Well, that's really great. Anyway, so so I'm saying, is the purpose of the NEPA assignment to provide, absolve FHWA of any responsibility while FDOT flagrantly commits fraud? Well, apparently that is the reason for the NEPA assignment. And I say to her, let's see, you wrote that we also encourage you to provide your feedback through the public engagement process. I mean, that's just insulting to me. That's just, it's enraging to me, that response from her. So I say here, something I've been doing the last 7 years, and it's gotten me nowhere. My last public engagement with District 7 and Pasco MPO had me removed from their meeting by a deputy sheriff. Okay, the fraudsters are not going to deal with me in an honorable way, in an honest way, through their public involvement. Why the hell would she think that me going back to their public involvement is in any way useful for me to do, when they've already demonstrated that they have no intention of doing anything honestly or competently or responsibly or any other way other than to do what's best for them and their buddies with the MPO board. Anyway, so then I finish this out with this paragraph here. Let it be known. Okay, let it be known. This is a matter of public record. Let it be known, therefore, that with my complaint, I put the FHWA on notice of FDOT District 7 and Pasco MPO fraud that has and will have caused grievous unlawful harms to the public, the taxpayers, the environment, the community of Land O'Lakes, and to me, and that by your email, FHWA is officially declaring the agency's going to look the other way, making FHWA complicit in their criminal conduct. And with this email, I copied Will Watts, Assistant Secretary of FDOT, and David Hawk, Assistant Administrator of FHWA Florida Division. That's why I said the corruption goes right up to the fucking top. I follow up that email with this is the only email I've ever gotten from Jennifer Marshall from FDOT, is her autoresponder saying she's out of the office. Let's see. I mean, why should she respond to me? I'm a peasant. I am a nobody, right? I'm not a somebody. I'm a nobody. I'm in the nobody category. And nobodies aren't, you treat nobodies like nobodies. Now we have, let's see. My email to David Hawk, her boss, Brunel's boss. And I copy Brunel and I copy Watts. So I say to him that the dismissive response I received from Ms. Brunel to my subject complaint is unacceptable. Her response displays a basic misunderstanding of the matter. I'm being nice. I'm being generous there. I didn't tell him what I really think, which is that she's just a liar. Anyway, Miss Brunell wrote that under the federal aid program, federal funds are made available to states for the use in implementing their state transportation improvement program. And I just tell them I'm well aware of that relationship. However, FHWA has an enforcement duty with respect to NEPA. FHWA has the responsibility to ensure federal funds are allocated to states and LPAs in compliance with NEPA. My complaint is that FDOT District 7 and the Pasco MPO are in violation of NEPA and the False Claims Act. Got nothing to do with the federal aid program other than, they should ensure that whenever they provide funding to a project, that project is in compliance with NEPA. And the NEPA assignment does not absolve them of that responsibility. She wrote that additionally, in December 16, 2016, FDOT's been assigned the environmental project level responsibilities, blah, blah, blah. I said that response is not relevant to my complaint. My complaint is for fraud, not over any project level design disagreement. My complaint pertains to their intentional misrepresentation of my patented parallel flow intersection, or PFI, and SPUI alternatives, that both have been deliberately misrepresented to the public for the purpose of District 7 Secretary David Gwynn and the Pasco MPO board members to falsely justify selecting the SPUI over the PFI, and that by doing so, their unlawful misconduct has cost me $57 million, etc., etc., etc. Then I say she wrote that FHWA has reviewed the information we received regarding the 4154 PD&E that I provided. I have no record that this is true. My evidence of FDOT District 7 and Pasco MPO fraud is contained in my email archives available for download from my website. I have no record that anyone from FHWA downloaded any file. I have no indication anyone from FHWA watched my Cui Bono video series. On my GF Parsons YouTube channel, I received no comments or questions on any of my information from FHWA. So, anyway, then I go on to say that she wrote, FDOT concluded the environmental process in February 2023. That's incorrect. I wrote in my complaint that their official misconduct has occurred over a period of 7 years beginning in December 2015 and concluding February 2023, when the PFI was officially rejected, not when the PD&E concluded. With respect to rejecting my PFI, their decision is pretty conclusive for me. So, what I was saying is that this misconduct that I'm reporting on has occurred over that period of time, and I'm saying that as far as I'm concerned, it concluded in February 2023 when they officially rejected the PFI under false pretenses. I don't think I should have to go through the whole goddamn project to where they finally get to the final conclusion or the official conclusion of the study to then say, oh, okay, now I'm going to call out their fraud. Why should I have to do that? The fraud is there today. It's been going on for years. And she goes on to say, we understand that FDOT expects further public involvement, blah, blah. And my response to that is, this is damn insulting. I suffered FDOT District 7's bogus public involvement since 2015. I repeatedly complained to them about their error-filled, improper, and incomplete work. And after repeatedly calling out their errors and omissions, they have repeatedly ignored or spuriously dismissed all of my comments. And now the only public involvement remaining for this PD&E is the public hearing where FDOT tells everyone their SPUI selection is final and the public can go suck it. Because that's how those public hearings go. That's them saying this is what we're doing, and you get to stand up and say, yeah, but I don't like this project, or I don't like this, or I don't like that. and then they ignore everything, and then they close out the study. That it's just it's an official. It's like a checkbox that they have to check. It's really more of a I don't know. It's just a I can't think of the word now. Just something that they do. It's not. They're not going to change the project when that's the last thing they do after a decade or more. I mean, the study began in 2012, so it's been over a decade. They're not going to get to the public hearing and somebody's going to say, hey, why didn't you do X? They're not going to go, oh, we didn't think of that. Well, let's just start the study all over again and think about X. We'll get back to you in 10 years. I mean, they might like to do that, but I think even they would think that is unacceptable, even by their standards, to spend another 10 years digging the hole, filling it back in at taxpayers' expense. Let's see. She wrote, quote, since this is a situation related to a specific project-specific action, no, my complaint is not project-specific. It's a criminal complaint of official misconduct. FDOT District 7 has falsified public information in order to improperly justify their final build selection. From FHWA NEPA Transportation Decision Making webpage, under alternatives, quote, the Council on Environmental Quality, CEQ, refers to the alternatives analysis section as the heart of the EIS and requires agencies to rigorously explore and objectively evaluate all reasonable alternatives and devote a substantial treatment to each alternative considered in detail. 40 CFR 1502.14, end quote. None of the above was done by FDOT District 7 during their 4-year 4154 PD&E feasibility study, nor by the Pasco MPO during their 2-year Vision 5456 study phase 2. Yeah, none of that was done. None of that was done. And the FDOT US 41 SR 54 PD&E purpose and need is to, quote, meet projected traffic demand, i.e., it's a capacity project, not to generate traffic for economic development in Newport Richey. By design year 2045, the PFI will operate an overall level service D with no congested movements on either 54 or 41, while the SPUI will operate at a severe level service F with maximum delays over 20 minutes on 41 and 10 minutes on the 54 ramps during AM and PM peak periods. Nobody cares. Nobody gives a damn. Nobody gives a damn. None of these people care. It's their job to care, but none of them do. FDOT District 7 put literally zero effort into studying the PFI's feasibility, even though the Vision 5456 task force voted the PFI as their preferred alternative. Yeah, so there was a task force that was part of the Vision 5456 study by the MPO. That task force voted the PFI as their preferred alternative, but that was erased. That they canceled the Vision 5456 study and they dissolved the task force. When the task force didn't give them the answer they wanted, the MPO board canceled the study, dissolved the task force. And then FDOT just did what they wanted to do, which was to pick the SPUI, which they wanted from day one. And that all 7 years of my being involved down there, of working on the PFI, all the thousands of dollars, thousands of hours, thousands of miles traveling across Florida, was all theater. They had no intention of ever giving the PFI an honest consideration or allowing the PFI to shine. They never wanted to show the PFI in a positive light. and they never wanted to show the SPUI in a negative light because they had already selected the SPUI as their project, and I was just being strung along for years. Lied to the entire time. Nobody gives a damn. So fuck these people. All of them. So I end this email to these people with, I don't know what I should expect from FHWA on the matter, but certainly a lot more than Miss Brunel's dismissive see no evil response.